Wait.
One thing that I hear very often is don't take your childhood for granted. And I've always believed this to be a very strong thing. I've just always felt that it's very important. And what I really think is that every child should have a childhood, and they should always be able to express themselves and be just who they want to be as they're growing up. And when something infringes on that, it's a very sad and just terrible thing. What I want to talk about and just kind of bring to light is just the amount of children that aren't able to live a childhood that they want to live, or just even live a childhood. I have a personal experience with this, as well as I have a friend that has had certain things that have happened to him that have caused him to not be able to live a childhood. He had to grow up at an age that wasn't, he had to grow up and be an adult at the age of 10. And that's unacceptable in our society. I mean, we live in a first world country where we have iPhones, we can do whatever we want. You know, we have this big dream of, hey, if I want to do this, I can do it. And it's sad that, you know, we don't have that, we can't actually live like that. Kind of what I want to get into is that just the fact that right now in the U.S., about half the people or kids under the age of 18 have had or lived in a situation that, or they have lived or experienced a situation that has caused mental or physical damage to them, and that can also then affect their perception and ability to go out and live their childhood. Another fact, now it's from the NHCS, which is a national, I can't remember the exact name of what they are, but it is a trusted organization. And then another thing that I found out, which is just recently, is that 2/3 of kids in the United States that have had have had situations that have been bad or not adverse, that have been adverse, have not been able to perform or meet their goals and expectations in the future, be it if they wanted to be a firefighter or a teacher or whatever, because of either physical abuse, mental abuse, or just poor living conditions. They haven't been able to reach out and get those opportunities either to live their childhood and then move up and finally become what they want to be, which is sad. You know, as a kid, you see, oh, I want to do this, you aspire to be something. And so as in your childhood, when you're playing, when you're doing all that stuff, you know, you have this big dream. You do all these things that are trying to build you up to that point, and it's sad to see that you can't do that because of some situation that has happened. A startling statistic that I found is that about 21% of all children in the United States live under the poverty line. 21%. That's ridiculous. And for that, like, now you have no opportunities to do any of those fun things. I love going to the pool. I love traveling. You can't do that if you have these situations where you're unable to afford, to care, and then especially if your parents aren't able to give you these opportunities to set you up for that. So then another thing I wanted to talk about is really, how do you fix these, or how do you notice them really? And in a lot of things, regardless of be like suicide, for example, which is a very prevalent thing, you have no idea a lot of times if they're even going through it. It's the same with situations of poverty. Yes, you can kind of tell if someone doesn't have as much money as another person. That's just, it's just how it is. You can see it, be it clothing or whatever. But a lot of times it's hard to really see these like really problematic things. If you had like a split in your parents have split. If you have had a situation where one of your parents is abusive or mentally, just has hurt you in any way, mentally or physically. You can't always see that as an outsider looking into this person's life. And so that's why, where it comes into, do I have to look, do I have to talk to this person more? And then, they may not share these things with you. For me, I didn't find out about my friend Andrew, who recently dropped out of school. I just found out that he had depression, and it was quite serious. He's now getting help for us, but it's just, I had no idea, and he's my best friend. And it's sad to me to see that I wasn't able to help him, and I had no idea that it was something that was in his life. It shows how well people can hide something like that. His childhood that he's lived, he didn't even really have one because his mother, who was addicted to different substances and had a lot of substance abuse, was never there for him. So he never had that love for her or anything, and that's really sad to me. My other friend, my best friend Joseph, his dad, when he was around 10 years old, had molested his two sisters, and he had to step up and become a parent for them. His mother, who had him when she was around 18, and then his sisters as well, has never been there for him. He has been the dad, the mom, and everything to his sisters. He hasn't had a childhood where when he was 10, he was caring for his sisters. that he's not an adult yet. He hasn't even had the time to enjoy his life, and now he's already having to provide for others. And I think that's just, as I've said so many times, I think that's a terrible thing that he's never had these opportunities that like I've had. I think I'm very privileged in all these things that I've had. I've been able to, as I've said, travel. We go to California or whatever. We can go try skiing, and a lot of this is just stuff I've had the opportunity to have because I've had the ability to live my childhood because of my parents. Getting on to things that are really, I think, the key part of this are like how to really fix this problem. And when I was thinking about this, I sat down, I was like, what is, or how do you identify it, as I said before? And if you can't identify it, I don't think you can really solve the problem. And which is, I guess what it brought me to is this. Solving the problem is a lot harder than just saying, do this, this, and this. There's always going to be times where a parent isn't able to provide for their children for whatever reason. And if it, be it good or bad, if they messed up as in whatever, if they were let off, they have no control of that. And that's just it's not their fault, but it's something now that their child has to deal with. So really solving the problem, you can't really solve the problem. It's gonna be, we're always gonna have it. But you can make moves to reduce the amount of people that are having it, be it really, or actually, honestly, it's just anything. Being a good friend, I think, is a very important part of that, because regardless of however your friends or your family life is, when you step out of that and you make friends and you have those friends, they're always going to be able to boost your self-worth. And you're going to feel like you matter, and that's something that I think is also important. When you're having these bad times, your parents abusive or whatever, when you can go to your friend and really just let go and just be who you want to be, that is living your childhood, and that is what's important. If you're not living your childhood, you're not living. And so whatever it is, if you can be a good friend, if you can look out for other people, as we've heard before today, if you see someone that's having a bad day and you can just say, hey, whatever, your shoes are cool, I like those, or hey, I like whatever about them. Just giving them these compliments and whatnot, it can really make someone feel like they're able to live this childhood that they may not have.